Welcome back to the Ilkhanate. When we left off, we were in a disaster due to our legitimacy dropping a little too low, or I should say Horde Unity. But I was thinking about the goals of this campaign, and of course forming the Ilkhanate should be our goal, but maybe we should emulate them a little. Hulagu Khan famously conquered Baghdad and sacked the city, killing nearly 800,000 people. And we could do something similar by sacking the city of the world's desire in Constantinople. We could also go for Cairo in Egypt, though fighting the Mamluks is always a bit of a thing. For now, we do have a lot of vassals, and I'm thinking of integrating them, rather violently in fact. The problem is our economy is kind of reliant on them. We are a horde, which kind of makes sense, right? We don't make much money from our cities, but we make quite a bit of money from our vassals paying us tribute. But even so, I think it's time that we start eating them. The way we're going to do it is we're going to fabricate a disloyal vassal CB on them and then release them and attack them using that CB. The problem will be making them disloyal enough that we can fabricate this CB. We'll try dropping our diplomatic spending down to 0 and seeing if we can get them to go below 50 like this guy has. We'll begin fabricating a CB on him. Then we'll just increase back up our diplomatic spending. Once the CB becomes available, we'll release him. We're also going to begin marching into Persia. We do need to destroy every other Ilkhanate member to become the Ilkhanate. In fact, actually, maybe we should go for Georgia. Georgia's the only other power that's even close to being able to challenge us in the region. They are, of course, a member of the Ilkhanate, so destroying and conquering them would be pretty worthwhile. We'll begin building a spy network on them for that potential maneuver. And there goes our ruler. He's died, I think, naturally at 39, a little too young for my tastes. That's good though, because we've got this very high quality ruler on the throne now. His 100 admin skill will really help with spreading our proximity around. This does start a revolt though, which isn't too big of a deal. Most of the other revolts we've experienced by these rival warlords have been barely anything. And notice we only lost 5 Horde Unity for the death of our ruler. Since we switched over to the matrilineal non-exclusive succession law, we won't have disasters like this trigger anymore once we end this one, because our Horde Unity isn't going to drop low enough for them to trigger. This revolt shouldn't really pose anything close to a threat. We'll just sweep them from the field. Revolt dealt with. Since we're gaining so much Horde Unity, I should probably spend it on giving out some privileges. We have quite a lot of privileges that we really don't like that the nobility have, like this one, which decreases control everywhere by 5, increases pop join rebel threshold, and has no real benefits. So we'd love to get rid of that. Also this one that makes it only nobles can lead, and this one that just increases the cost of court. We'd love to get rid of all those. And one of the ways we're going to do so is trying to empower the other states to reduce the cost of revoking privileges from the nobles. We could just focus on increasing crown power, but because we have so many vassals, we kind of can't. Even though we have quite high control at 60%, our crown power is rather low because of how much of our population is within our vassals. The Civil War doesn't help as well, but it shouldn't be long before we're out of this conundrum. There's our disloyal subject CB. We'll cancel vassal status with the nation in question. Then in a month's time, once our diplomat has returned, we will now attack them. Or we won't, because our disloyal vassal CB disappeared. I think they actually did patch that. I can't quite remember though, but it's not a big deal. We'll just use the old cleanse heresy CB on these guys. Unfortunately, a lot of our vassals that we've created aren't in the Ilkhanate, so we can't use the usual CB to expand into them. Quite a few of them are heretics though, so we can get the cleanse heresy CB. And unfortunately we can't use our really good horde expansion CB because they are also hordes, because they're our custom subjects. But it's no matter. We're also going to begin fabricating a CB on the only other horde left in the Ilkhanate to destroy them. We'll also begin fabricating a CB on Georgia to take their land too. Once those two are out of here, the Ilkhanate will really be completely under our power with just tiny nations left. Alright, both our CBs are available. The question is, who do we attack? Really, we could just attack both. Georgia's definitely the stronger nation, but that's based on levies. The other nation is actually at war with the Golden Horde at the moment, so it's probably best to just jump them. We don't really want the Golden Horde to take any land from them in the Ilkhanate, obviously. So we'll just rush in, I think, and see if we can't take their nation before the Golden Horde gets involved and potentially ruins things. While we're at war here, we could attack Georgia. The CB doesn't expire for 5 years though, so it's not like we're in a rush. I think we will just clean these guys up first. Looks like the Golden Horde did take quite a bit of land up here while we were fighting. That's a little unfortunate and unlucky. I suppose it doesn't particularly matter though, it's not like we need this land or anything. I kind of wanted to be friendly with the Golden Horde. In fact, actually, is the Golden Horde about to shatter? They don't have any regulars. I think they might just shatter once their current wars end. Well, let's ignore them for the moment. For our rival, because they are also a horde, we can't steal their vassals by conquering them, obviously. So what I'm thinking we do is we actually focus on occupying and annexing the vassals outright. It may end up being a bit tedious sieging down their forts, but that way we can just integrate these guys who are all going to become independent once we shatter their master anyway. Maybe we should actually try and avoid shattering them. It looks like they've lost all their regulars though. I don't recall killing them, so my vassals must have done it. So since them being shattered is a foregone conclusion now, we should really try and get as much land as we can. One thing I have realised is because we're using the matrilineal non-exclusive succession law, none of our children are actually going to be of our ruler's dynasty. Instead, they're going to be of the dynasty of their wives because they're nobles. Luckily, that's a knife that cuts both ways. So the sons of our daughters and sisters are also going to be eligible for the throne. I do need to remember to either marry my sons or brothers to other members of our dynasty or marry them to lowborn. It'll cost a bit of horde unity, but it's not particularly a big deal and will allow us to ensure the continuation of our dynasty. Alright, we're going to make peace here. Not because we necessarily need to, but I want to end the war so that we can trigger the final uprising for the disaster. Because we've got over the stability point now. We just need the rebels to revolt and lose, and then the disaster will be over. So we'll make peace. These guys are going to shatter. We're going to annex all of their land here, and that'll be that. As discussed, they're going to just break apart. So all of their nations are going to become independent, and their actual nation should just dissolve. Yep, there they go. Their little bit of territory. It looks like they do continue to exist, but they've become a tribal nation instead of a horde nation like we are. But that does mean because they've actually kept their land, they do actually keep all their vassals. That's interesting. I suppose we could now annex them and gain their vassals for ourselves. We've gained a lot of land now. I want to avoid making any more vassals, so I think we'll hang on to it if we can. What we may do is just give it out to existing vassals to manage. We should have the revolt by the rival warlord happen literally any second now. Yep, there they are. They shouldn't pose anything like a threat, just as usual. And there they go. Victory for the Khan. This should end the disaster now. We had a lot of horde unity, a lot of stability, all the wonderful things. The horde crisis now ends. We gain a lot more stability, another 15 on top of that, based on our crown power, which I guess is very low. We could now start revoking some of these privileges I don't like from the nobility. It's going to cost us most of the stability we just gained, but stability kind of exists to be spent. So let's get rid of that banal lordships. It just sucks. We could immediately attack the Georgians now. How strong are they? Well, let me wait for a diplomat to come back before we do it. We are getting a bit of a coalition against us right now, but that may be beneficial, as it means we could attack into the coalition and bring in lots of nations all at once. I think the coalition may have reached its full size. There's a few nations that could join, but they don't seem to want to right now. But the coalition is definitely weak, but it's full of nations we'd like to annex. But of course, we still have Georgia to strike. Let's begin building a spy network in one of the coalitionites, and then I think we'll attack Georgia. There is a chance the coalition will attack us from behind, but I'm sure it'll be fine. Let's bring our army into position so that we are next. Maybe we shouldn't though, maybe we should be a little cautious. Georgia does have a lot of soldiers after all, and we definitely don't want to be stack wiped because that'll be the end of our horde. Surely though, the 1,000 or so light cavalry we have should be more than enough to defeat the Georgians. But let's do this a little more cautiously instead of just running in like a mad person. I know it's difficult. Let's declare war, unify the Ilkhanate. We'll also call up our levies just to bulk us out a little bit. They're all cavalry as well, so they'll definitely help us just sweep the Georgians. The main problem is going to be the forts. The Georgians of course have a lot of forts, and their forts are very defensible because of bonuses Georgians have. So we'll have to see. We might be able to leave it to our vassals. It's whether our vassals will be smart enough to go and do that for themselves. Because the Georgians and their vassals also aren't Sunni, we can actually just enslave loads of them, which is always nice as well. There's the Georgian army. Looks like it's pretty much all of them. They look like they have a very good general, actually. Yep, he's got pretty high stats. a little better than ours in some ways. Inferior when it comes to admin though, but only by 2 points. I'm not sure we want to just run into him. To be fair, if he just sits there now, he's making a move. He's going to stack wipe our vassal there, unfortunately. We could jump him, but I don't fancy our chances, or at least I don't want to risk it. We'll see if we can't coax him into attacking us. There he is. He's coming straight... Well, he's not coming straight for us, but we should be able to get there before him. Yep, we're going to arrive on the 22nd, so we'll arrive first, and then he'll attack us, and we'll annihilate him. That's the entire Georgian army gone. We've taken their few regular soldiers as our captives. Now there's nothing left to do but siege down the nation. We are getting a bit of attrition because of the winter here, though. Thinking about it, before we started the war, I should have agitated liberty in some of the Georgian vassals. We might have been able to make them disloyal enough that we could have annexed them. Ah well though, you live and learn. We finally took Tabriz. It took a little while. Could we full annex Georgia? I don't think so. Just based on the war score cost. It could be that once we occupy a few of their forts they have left, we could reduce the price low enough that we could full annex them. I'm not feeling it though. I don't think so. Attrition's also done a bit of a number on us, so we're just going to retreat home for the moment, and then we'll think about our next move. Since full annexing Georgia isn't really an option, I guess we could just take their territories like this, take a big chunk out of them. We should probably prioritise taking forted land, which is what we're doing, but something like that would be all their forts. We're going to leave the lands that are controlled by their vassals. We don't particularly care about them. And they'll become our vassals anyway when we annex them. This will anger a few people, but we're not too bothered. We're actually going to immediately attack the coalition once this war's over anyway. So let's make peace. This land is very much too far away for us to manage, so we will create some vassals here to manage it on our behalf. It's going to be slow going to getting rid of all of our vassals. We don't have the cabinet seats to integrate land fast, so just conquering them one after another isn't really... Well, I mean, it's viable, but it means we'd be at low control, high rebelliousness, and would be a distraction from our continued expansion. Speaking of distraction from our continued expansion, I guess we're going to have a revolt back home, so we'll deal with that before we attack the coalition. A few more nations are joining the coalition, that's excellent. The more nations that join, the more nations we can just annex. Right, that's the rebels dealt with. Now let's attack the coalition. There's quite a lot of them, but they're all relatively weak. They're all also members of the Ilkhanate, so we want to destroy them anyway. Right, that's what all the coalitionites dealt with. We're going to full annex all of them, which is actually going to lead to another coalition. But honestly, I'm kind of thinking, as long as it's only small tiny nations, no one big like, say, the Mamluks, then do we even care? We might care. We might care if it grows a little too large, right? But for now, the only people that are really offended are small nations here in the east. I guess the Ottomans care, but we could probably just flatten the Ottomans, honestly, if they did decide to defy us. Alright, time to hit the coalition again. I think after this one we might relax a little bit. We don't want to go too crazy, right? Just crazy enough. I'm also going to avoid taking land that's outside of what we need to take to become the Ilkhanate. The other nations will just bully them, extract their money. All for the greater good, of course. One of the problems we're having is lack of manpower, and unfortunately we can't build our unique manpower building as it requires us to have a majority of our steppe culture in the provinces, and as you can imagine, there aren't actually that many Mongolians in our land. We're very far from home in that regard. So it's probably a good idea setting a cabinet minister to increase our culture until we achieve a majority somewhere. Problem is, of course, we don't have many cabinet seats. And because we're so far away from Europe, it's going to be a while before we get some. Either way, let's see if we can bring up a Mongolian majority in some of our land at least. We are actually starting to see a few mercenary armies roaming around, but luckily, even mercenaries can't hold a candle to our glorious steppe cavalry, so we'll send them howling back into the pit they spawned from. We do not like to see their kind around here. I didn't realise, but this Ormuz here is actually part of the Ilkhanate, so we will need to annex them, or destroy them in some other way. Maybe we can do it in this war. They're quite a wealthy nation. As you can imagine, Hormuz is bankrolling most of their economy. So it'd be nice if we could take it for ourselves, though it'd be quite hard for us to make money from it. Although it's not too far, right, from our land to it. We're not going very hard on naval, as you can imagine. We're definitely a land-based nation. No ships here. It does help with our proximity spread through land as well. So once we, or if we integrate and annex all of the nations here to get a connection to Hormuz, we can start reaping the benefits. We'll probably throw a local governor down there. It's just a matter of ploughing through our vassals and or integrating them, but probably just ploughing through them. Right, Hormuz has been taken. We can full annex these guys. It might be a little too much on the antagonism though. I think we're fine though. I think we're fine. Do we even see the Mamluks in the list here? We see Byzantium, but no, we're not seeing the Mamluks anywhere near to the top, if they're even in the list. So we'll annex them. They do have a vassal over the strait here. I'm not sure I really want them. I suppose we can just release them if they're a nuisance, right? Maybe they'll earn their keep. Right, there's the coalition dealt with. I think when it comes to land outside of my core, or at least land that's uncored, I want to keep hold of it as long as we're not running a deficit, because even if I don't make much money from the land, the money will flow to my estates, who will build useful things like, say, roads. And as mentioned, I do want to cut away to Hormuz so that we can benefit from it, and we're going to need roads. We have quite a bit of a bank now, though. Really, we're just kind of looking for something to spend it on. Once we've got enough Mongolians in our capital region, we'll start spamming the buildings. In fact, we could build one right now that allow us to get 50 manpower a month from each building. I think we're a little bit over on inflation though, so let's drop that down before we do that. And then let's deal with some of the land that we've taken that's over just on its own. We'll just hand it out to the local tribes that rule the area on our behalf. Another problem we're going to have is with revolts. But as long as we demolish the forts, the revolts shouldn't really pose anything close to a threat. We do have the rival warlord revolt. I'm not sure why they've appeared. They were from the disaster, but we're not in the disaster and we haven't been in it since it ended. But for some reason, they've showed up again. Hopefully they don't keep showing up. It could be because maybe the guy leading it was the son of the previous guy who led it, maybe? I don't know. Oh well, we'll just have to hope it doesn't become an issue. Right, that's the rival warlord defeated again. I hope they don't come back. I mean, it shouldn't be too difficult to defeat them if they do, but I mean, they're supposed to be dead. I don't like people coming back when they're supposed to be dead. Speaking of which, we're going to begin cutting our way down to Hormuz. Let me actually check. What roads, or do we even need a road connection to get up to our capital? It looks like we'll need at least a few. We can connect these two provinces, and then we need to connect these two provinces, and then we need a connection from here over to there. So we are going to need to build some roads. Either way, we'll begin releasing our subjects that are on the path to Hormuz, and then we'll just conquer them using CBs we've already fabricated. Hopefully they haven't built any forts. I like to imagine they haven't though, and even if they had, it's not like it would really stop us. Ooh, the coalition has actually attacked us. They're a little big. I don't think there'll be too much of an issue though. It's unfortunate they're attacking us because it means we can't really annex their land, but that's a minor issue. It's not like their land's going anywhere. When it comes to numbers, us plus all our vassals easily overcome them anyway. I suppose they could call up mercenaries. We'll have to see if they try to bridge the gap in that way. The one leading the coalition is actually fairly weak themselves, so once we full occupy them, it likely won't be long until the coalition surrenders. I see how it is though. I was trying to annex my vassals between me and Hormuz, and these guys decided that they wanted to make my life more difficult. No matter though. And there we go, full occupation of the war leader, and they're already willing to make peace. We won't take any land from them, mainly because they're just distracting us from our other purposes. We'll continue working our way down to Hormuz, and then we might actually start making money. Now we're actually having a bit of a revolt. This may work in our benefit though. It's happening because we had a minor revolt here, and they've brought in our rebellious vassals. We didn't really have any rebellious vassals, just a few that had slipped below 50. But because they're rebelling, we can just integrate all those vassals back into us now. If they're going to give us the opportunity to annex them, we might as well. Remember, as I said, as long as we're making a profit, we're not making a profit right now, but our income's actually got quite, well, maybe not quite high, but we're making around 40 ducats. And at this point, the income we get from our vassals is less than the income we're spending on diplomatic spending. So our vassals are no longer maintaining our economy. Whether we'll still be making a profit once we integrate all their land is a separate thing though. But as you probably recall, we have quite good proximity spread. So it's not like it's going to be that difficult for us to increase our control across a very large area. The problem will be with coring. Cores, of course, make it easier to gain control in land, and it's going to be quite a long time before we're able to core all of our territory. The Renaissance has showed up in our lands. In fact, all of the Renaissance era institutions have. I think we're going to grab Renaissance right now. It's a little expensive on stability mainly, but I really want to grab, or at the very least, start coming down this way in the advances tree so we can get that extra government reform and that extra cabinet seat. They're going to be vital. The extra cultural capacity will also be helpful. Our son successfully came of age. I'm actually a little curious about the succession system. It says it goes through the female line and siblings, but my ruler has a lot of female siblings who have a lot of sons, but I think I've realized why. I think I've realized why it doesn't go through the line, and I think it's likely due to Sharia law here. This blocks female rulers, which I think also means it blocks the potential for succession to go through the female line, which is annoying because we have our current succession law, which means our women are the ones passing on the dynasty. So our sons aren't actually going to pass on the dynasty. Luckily, we have a solution to that. Incest. We'll just marry our sons to various other women from within the dynasty, ensuring that all of their children will, of course, be of our dynasty. Don't look at me, I didn't want to do it. The game made me do it. That at the very least will ensure that we are able to keep our dynasty in power. Permanently, hopefully. Ooh, and there goes our ruler. That's too bad. He was very good, obviously. He died at 54, being succeeded by his son, who only just came of age, and his 3 wives, who are also his close relatives. Well, not that close, obviously. Close-ish members of the family. For some reason, we've actually lost a lot of horde unity on the death of our ruler there. I'm not sure why. Am I missing something here? It could be. There must be another reason why we've lost 50 horde unity on the death of our ruler. Unless I'd already lost it and I didn't notice, but no, I definitely didn't, right? Oh well. If we do end up in the civil war, it won't be too big of a deal to deal with because we haven't got the very low stability that we had last time. Yep, we've ended up with the succession crisis triggering. Alright, this revolt's over. We managed to integrate a lot of our vassals that were rebelling, but we've gained a little bit too much land here in the far north, I think, in the Georgian region. Our costs have kind of skyrocketed due to our wealth growth. So we're going to give out a lot of this land back to vassals. I hate to do it, but needs must. Another reform, but had a hankering for one of these. The problem is because we're not a monarchy, we don't have access to a lot of the great reforms. With that in mind, I think we're going to go for local army organisation, because our levies, as I'm sure you remember, are all cavalry. So even if we're pulling from the peasant pops, we're calling up cavalry every time. So getting those few extra, or 25% extra, peasant levies will translate to lots more cavalry. And that's what we need, right? And then our ruler died. He was only 19. I guess he was just bad. A bad ruler. This is a bad situation now, though, where I've got a 1-year-old on the throne. But we do have the rebels, right? The guy leading the rebellion is a Borjigin, and he's not far off in the succession if we actually check. He himself is the great-grandson of old Musa, just down a different branch. So I think we will let our little Babur ruler die, and we'll invite him to take the throne. They're about solving the issue. I was actually thinking this guy would end up taking the throne anyway, but just because our very old, very high stat ruler didn't have any children of our dynasty until very late in his life, so I thought it might end up this way anyway. Too bad he didn't get to reproduce though. Well, I mean, he reproduced, just his children were found wanting, I suppose. His branch of the family just didn't have it in him to succeed the Khanate. Oh well though, these sorts of things happen. Someone else will take over the Horde Civil War, who we'll have to deal with. Now, we've had a bit of a problem here. There's a few nations that are our vassals that we can't get CBs on. And because we're a Horde, we can't use the old parliamentary CB. So what we're going to do is we're just going to give them independence and hope that maybe they'll ally somebody. We might be able to get them to join the coalition against us, actually, if we can anger them enough. So that's something we could think about. We have been looking inwardly a little too much, so I think next up we're going to go conquer Georgia. We are, of course, still in the disaster. We're just waiting for the stability to increase. And every time the rebels revolt and we defeat them, we gain some stability anyway. Alright, let's leap on those Georgians. They're going to call in a few people, but these are all just members of the coalition. They're also going to call in Bulgaria. We'll see if the Bulgarians are actually able to get over to us. They'd have to pass through the Ottomans. Speaking of which, the Ottomans have actually taken Constantinople. Impressive, most impressive. Right, that's the Bulgarians done. They did bring their army over, and they did a lot of sieging here, and then they kind of all starved to death, and we finished them off. Too bad we can't take any money from them, because I'm not willing to go all the way over to their land to occupy it. Now we just need to deal with the Georgians. As always, the problem with the Georgians is sieging. We have to siege down a lot of provinces, and a lot of forts, which does make the whole matter rather time-consuming and tedious, but it has to be done. We should be able to full annex the Georgians in this war. Just looking at the numbers right now, it looks totally fine to me. Can we full annex their vassals? Do we even want to full annex their vassals is a separate question. I'm unlikely to want to manage this land up north directly for the moment, so I think we will keep their vassals around. They should be able to manage the land on our behalf. Our heir has come of age. He kind of sucks though. He was slow. Since succession is largely based on stats and skills, it's unlikely he'll inherit. So I don't think we'll bother giving him a harem of cousin wives. Ah, there we go. The Georgians have capitulated. That's excellent. Now we can just finish the war. As discussed, we'll full annex them. We'll leave their vassals around. We can give them the land that we're taking from the Georgians to manage. We could always release the Georgians, I suppose, but I'm not sure they're deserving of being released back into the world. Now, we're likely going to have a rebellion, either by the chiefs, not really sure why they're that rebellious, I think it's just because of being conquered, or more preferably, we'll have a rebellion by the warlord. That's what my preference would be, so we could clean him up. That's the disaster cleaned up. That gave us a lot of stability, obviously. I'm thinking that I'm going to no-CB these guys. You may recall I released them in the hopes that they would join a coalition so I could get a CB on them or something, but they haven't done so. So we're just gonna kill them. It's gonna cost us a little bit of stability. It's gonna make people a little angry, but I'm fine with that. It is kind of strange that we can't get a CB as a horde on nations that are also hordes. That doesn't really make sense. To be fair though, the fact that all the vassals we release are hordes doesn't really make sense either. They should probably be tribal nations, but not hordes. There we go, that's them done. That now gives us a physical connection to Hormuz, where we can potentially build a local governor. We just need to build the roads to it. Let's have a little look-see at the road situation. It looks like our merchants have built some connections, which should make things a little bit easier, or less expensive even. If we connect the road here, and then if we connect the road here, and then if we connect these two, and then finally connecting these two, that should give us access to Hormuz so we can build a local governor there. We need to wait for those roads to be built though. Apparently one of them is going to take 2,000 days. I'm not sure if that's true. It might be true. Let's think about building a road a little somewhere better then. Somewhere like that. How curious. This tiny nation here has declared war on us with a tribal feud, CB. I'm not sure that's a good idea, but I guess if they want us to take their land, who am I to say otherwise? They must know something we don't, to offer up their nation to us in this way. Looks like what they knew was they were about to have a revolt, and because there's a revolt, we can't occupy the rest of their country that's controlled by the revolt. So our only real option is to annex the small bit of land we've taken, causing the revolt to be perpetually here in existence. Odd, but not necessarily my problem. Let's build that local governor in Hormuz. Now we haven't managed to core Hormuz despite working on coring it for a good 40 or so years. But even so, once the local governor is available, our control here will skyrocket. There we go, local governor built in Hormuz. Control here will tick up to around 50 or close to 60. Once we core it, it should go up to at least 80 or 70. Of course, coring is going to take a while. At the very least, that's that done. How far are we from forming the Ilkhanate? We need to conquer a lot of land, but honestly, I think all of the nations we have as vassals is enough. And our second son has come of age, who's much better than his elder brother. Let's marry him off to a bunch of relations from within the clan and hope he produces more of us. Also, I didn't realise, but we actually have a gold province over here. Probably should have checked for that a bit earlier. Let's throw down a bailiff on the province, just to push control up to 20. I've just realised now, but one of the problems with Hormuz is that it's a island. I thought there was a land connection to the rest of the region, but no. So control there is coming through maritime presence instead of through land. Our various stats that reduce the cost of proximity are still applying, as you can see. They're basically taking 11 off the cost of transferring from Hormuz to the mainland. But even so, that's something to be aware of. We're not really a naval nation though, so it'll probably just stay as is. Thinking of it, are there any other gold nations? Are there any other gold provinces? It looks like there is one here, belonging to this vassal. I think he'll be our next integration target. We can actually see he's making a lot of money off that gold. He knows what's up. So we'll integrate him and steal all that gold, and any money that he's currently accumulated and hasn't spent. Let me actually now check for silver. Ooh, there are a few silver provinces as well. 2 within our vassals, another one up there, and then we've got control of one as well. It's actually just down the road from our gold province. So we'll throw a bailiff down there as well. It may also be worth connecting the gold and silver provinces to roads that connect to Hormuz. That way at least their control or their proximity will sit a little higher. These provinces aren't called though, so that's what's really holding them back when it comes to having control in them. So we'll get to work on coring them. We've got another rival warlord appearing. I'm not sure why they keep appearing, it definitely feels bugged since we're not in the disaster. They are annoying though because they can keep driving up the dissatisfaction of some of our pops. We can see here. Some of these pops are sitting on minus 259 satisfaction, which is annoying, but at the very least we can deal with them pretty easily. Alright, I think we'll leave things here for now. Let's have a look at what our nation looks like with all our vassals being the same colour as us. They're a lot more brown. We do have a few nations within us that are still independent. Now we just need to clean up these last few nations here that are independent, of course the nations inside us, and then there'll be nobody left who's part of the Ilkhanate that is not our vassal. Then it'll be a simple matter of integrating or conquering all our vassals and becoming the Ilkhanate. But either way, I'll thank you for watching. I'll hope you did enjoy this video. Do let me know what you think and or thought, and I'll see you next time.